Hi, I'm Steve. In 2008, my eldest brother was diagnosed with bowel cancer. He'd been having symptoms for some time, but was burying his head in the sand, but just ignoring it. He was given 18 months if he underwent treatment, only 6 months if he didn't.
Were you guys close?
Not so much. We'd lost contact for a few years, but to be fair, this kind of brought us back together. This kind of prompted me to check my body for lumps and bumps. To my surprise, I found a golf ball-sized lump in my groin. And some people wouldn't, but I acted immediately, obviously because of what Michael had gone through. The GP said, "Don't worry, nothing to worry about, but I'll refer you to a specialist anyway." Tests ensued, no results, but still nothing to worry about.
What's the first thing that went through your head?
It's a great question, but at the time, I guess I was still in denial. You know, it's nothing to worry about. So let's just carry on with the test and let's get through it. They then removed the lump and sent it away for further tests. I was then instructed to go in for a whole day of tests. Still no news. I'll never forget that day because I was in Dr. Strauss's office and his phone rang while I was sat there. He had a conversation, he was on there for a while. He cut the conversation, apparently it was something to worry about. My wife Carolyn kept texting me because she told me to keep her updated, asking for details. But I couldn't tell her by text.
What was her initial reaction?
Well, I returned home just as the kids, who were 7 and 3 at the time, arriving home from school. So I did what you do. I painted the happy daddy face on, did bedtime stories, we ate. Then once they were asleep, I set Carolyn down, gave her the news that I had cancer. Obviously, she was very upset. We were both very upset. The next day, Carolyn and I had to attend hospital again to discuss treatment. We were told by Dr. Bevan this time that I had a very rare form of leukemia. That they were speaking to specialists in London and Spain, that I'd need a 2-year treatment plan, chemotherapy, and a bone marrow transplant. That's if they could find a match.
How do you even begin to start to process information like that?
I guess I still haven't. When I sit here now, it feels like it was someone else. I think I was in denial, questioned the diagnosis at first. I asked when the treatment started and what my survival chances were. Dr. Bevan didn't pull any punches and told me, in his words, "Treatment starts day after tomorrow. You'll be here for 6 months initially." So I found myself asking what the survival chances were. He said 30% at best, if we can find a donor. Well, that put me on my arse. If I had a poker face before, certainly didn't have any more. I spent the next day, well, it was a busy schedule actually, because I had a day and a half. I wrote letters to my wife and children. I wrote a letter to the children's godfather. I had to close down my business, get all my affairs in order, because it felt like I was going in hospital to die, to be honest. And then I had to write a will. So I phoned the solicitors. Said, "Hi, I need to make a will." She said, "Just let me see the appointment book." She had a look and she said, "I could do Friday week at 10. And I said, "I'm starting cancer treatment tomorrow. I've got a 30% chance." So she said, "Okay, see you in half an hour." So that was it. I went and wrote my will. We decided not to give the children any big scary words, just that Daddy had poorly blood and that treatment would, make Daddy's hair fall out, and won't that be funny? Daddy's going to be a bit poorly, but don't worry, it'll all be fine. After 5 months of treatment, I was classed as in remission, so I was transferred from Chichester to Southampton for my conditioning and stem cell transplant.
How was the treatment?
Well, different levels, I think, is the easiest way to describe it. Not too bad to start with. All the time I was in Chichester, I still had all my hair. We'd now cut it into a crew cut. We gradually shortened it over time so as not to scare the kids too much. But I hadn't lost any yet. I still felt strong. I was then put in a vacuum-sealed room, told that I'd be there for 4 weeks, and that I'd be blasted with chemo prior to my transplant. I remember going to the interview, because you had to go for an interview with the specialist, Dr. Kim Orchard. I sat in front of him and he said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm fine at the moment, to be honest." He said, "I can see that." He said, "It's all going to change when you get here." I said, "Right." He said, "Your hair's going to fall out. You're going to be very, very poorly." And then spent the next 40 minutes telling me all the drugs I may or may not have, the chances of dying from each particular drug, the percentage of dying from each drug, and what unpleasant after effects they're going to have. So after he finished, I just sat there stony-faced. After he finished, he said, "Have you got any questions, Mr. Mitchell?" I said, "I've got to tell you, Doc, you're not selling it very well." I still had a sense of humour at that point. He said, "I'm not here to sell it, I'm just here to tell you how it is." Fair enough, didn't ask you to sugarcoat it. So up to that point, as I said, the treatment wasn't that intrusive. When I was in Chichester, sometimes I was an inpatient, sometimes I was an outpatient. I remember one instance of when I was at my outpatient stage, I arrived at hospital in my motorcycle gear, and my specialist said, "Steve, you didn't ride your motorbike in, did you?" Yeah, I did, yeah." She said, "You know you've got 0 platelet levels, don't you? Do you know what that means?" I said, "Yeah, it means if I cut myself, I'm probably going to bleed to death." She said, "So why are you riding a motorbike?" I said, "Viv, I've got cancer. How much worse can it get?" That was Chichester. Southampton was a whole different ballgame. It wasn't pleasant. It's quite bizarre when you first wake up and see hairs on your pillow. Then you see bald patches in your beard, eyebrows, everywhere. The ulcers were so bad that I had to be fed intravenously for 6 weeks. I was told I was going to be in there for 4 weeks. I was in there 8 weeks exactly to the day. It's quite bizarre as well if you haven't eaten for so long that you reach a stage when it feels alien to put food in your mouth. At one stage, the nurses thought I wouldn't make it through the night, so they sent the pastor in to hear my last thoughts, if I had anything I wanted to say. I told him that I wasn't ready for him and asked him to leave. So in total, I was in that vacuum-sealed room with virtually no visitors for 8 weeks. Well, before the 8 weeks were up, my wife actually contacted Viv, who was the head nurse at Chichester. She said, "Viv, you have to let Steve get out even for an hour." She wasn't able to visit me the whole time I was in there because she had sniffles, she had flu, and we couldn't let the bugs in the room, so I didn't see her or the kids for 2 months. So she was imploring to Viv, "You have to let him out for a while." So they did let me out for a couple of hours. Viv was like, she asked Carolyn, why does he need to leave that badly? She said, "Because I know for a fact from the nurses, he's actually been banging his head against the wall. It's driving him nuts." So I had to wear a mask and I was in a wheelchair, and they took me to the local park. And it wasn't an ideal way to see the kids for the first time. After the 8 weeks, I left in a wheelchair. I'd lost nearly 4 stone in those 8 weeks. All my muscle mass had gone. I was literally as weak as a kitten. Well, I remember the car journey on the way home. It was a beautiful sunny day. I kept looking through the sunroof, just being thankful for being out. I actually said to Carolyn, "I'm going to do my best to not ever be stressed again about the little things, because they really don't matter." When I got home, it all felt a bit alien. I'd been in confined space for so long, and to be I say be allowed to do what I wanted to do. I was very restricted as what I could do and was allowed to do. But we decided to rehome a Labrador to encourage me to walk regularly. Started walking Bali, fell in love with Bali. We spent a lot of time together, but it was only getting some of my strength back. So I decided to buy an old electric bike to get me started back to, pedalling fitness again, because I was a keen cyclist beforehand. And I was just too weak to pedal a regular bike. A big heavy thing, I remember it really clearly. It's silvery grey in colour, horrible huge battery on it. But it did the job. Progress was dramatic. And within 9 months of being in a wheelchair, I was back to a regular bike and actually completing the journey to Southampton Hospital for my checkups on a bike. I remember arriving the first time I did it with Kate, my oncologist at Southampton, and they were saying, "Steve, tell me you haven't just cycled here from home." Turns out she's also a cyclist, wanted to know the details. So I told her that it was 44 miles, door to door. It took approximately 3 hours. She replied, "I'm guessing you're taking the train back." "No, I'll pedal back." It was at this point that I started thinking what my next move would be regarding work. It dawned on me how big a part of my recovery the e-bike played, and how this could benefit so many other people. I had to find a new career because my previous business was too dusty. I like cycling. This helps people. Sod it. So I opened a shop. I started the ebike-centre 1st of Feb 2011. Same time, started increasing my fitness and cycling distances. I cycled my first 100-mile fundraiser for leukemia research in 2012. I just wanted to give something back. The NHS, everybody have been absolute stars. I wouldn't be here without their care. After that ride, I thought, well, what's next? I've done 100 miles, what do I do next? Didn't take long, I found my next challenge, London to Paris. Sod it, why not? What's the worst that can happen? So the following year, it excited me and terrified me at the same time about this event. 500 kilometres over 4 days. I'd never done anything like that before. It wasn't actually as tough as I was expecting. By the second year, plans were in place for my stem cell donor and I to meet. So after the treatment, I said to the hospital, how do I thank this anonymous person? I need to thank them somehow. And they said, oh, you can send a thank you card, give it to us and we'll send it on. We can't give you the details. I said, a thank you card. If somebody returns your wallet, you give them a thank you card. This person saved my life. So I wrote a letter and I wrote her a poem, and it kind of encapsulated what her gift meant to me, and I called it The Gift. I happened to mention this to the organisers of the London-Paris ride, and what they said kind of surprised me, because he said, well, where are you going to meet? What's the plans? I said, Paul, we don't have any plans. It went quiet on the phone. He said, well, you're going to do the ride this year. Why don't we get Catherine and her family to Paris and you can meet there? It's a great story. It promotes everything that we care about. So that's what we did. So Catherine, my donor, my stem cell donor, not bone marrow because it's different, her 3 daughters and her husband, they shipped them all out to Paris. They'd had to get passports for the daughters because their daughters had never been abroad before. The feeling of cycling around the Arc de Triomphe, when all the traffic has been halted just for us, knowing that in minutes I'd be meeting Catherine for the first time, was so overwhelming. Just truly emotional. I can't describe it. I climbed off the bike, tired and nervous. I scanned the crowds. You've got all the riders' friends and families there who've come to support their loved ones. Many who've been through similar or worse experience to myself. But I still actually didn't know what she looked like. We'd only contacted via email and letters and a phone call. And then somebody grabbed me, ushered me over to Catherine, her husband Andy and their 3 daughters. I'll never forget young Sophie's words. We had a big hug, all of us. And then she said, "You've got my mummy's blood, haven't you?" "Yes, I have," I said. "That means you're family now." Wow.
Well, that's amazing, but that's not the end of the chapter, is it, Steve?
No, it's not, Toby. Because Catherine supported the charity and the ride, she wanted to do more. I suggested that she cycle the event the following year because I was going to do it again. There were a couple of hurdles to jump. One, she didn't own a bike, and 2, she didn't have any road cycling experience or a training plan. They were easily solved, to be honest. I provided a bike, which we sent out to her, and a personal trainer friend of mine, an advocate of the charity, well, he's a bike trainer, so he provided a tailored training plan. Following year, both Catherine and her husband Andy joined me on the start line at Greenwich Park. It was, again, a whole new level of amazing. They both did so well. Catherine had some health issues on day 3. She spent some time with the paramedic support team. She's selfless, to the point of recognise the fantastic work the paramedics do. Going home, then training to be a paramedic, she still practices today. It just blows my mind. Blows my mind. So, about 7-8 months after my release from Southampton General Hospital, yeah, I say release, but it kind of felt like I was in prison, but hey, it is what it is. Southampton General Hospital, they liked the poem, and they contacted me and asked for my help with a recruitment drive to enrol students to go and sign people up to be on the bone marrow register. Of course, that was never going to be an issue. I'd do whatever I could to help. Up to now, they'd asked me to speak to several patients who were recently diagnosed, see if I could talk to them, you know, look at me, I've been through it, I'm doing okay. It always made me feel like a prize marrow that an accomplished gardener would wheel out. Look what we've done, he lives. Or Frankenstein, he lives. This was different. I had to stand in front of hundreds of students and read the poem that I'd written. Nervous isn't the word. As I stepped up to the podium, I looked around, scanned the faces, 200-300 students there, all looking at me, and my legs went to jelly, and all I could manage to utter was, "Shit, this is scarier than cancer." Please add yourself to the bone marrow register. All you have to do is provide a saliva sample to register. For more info, follow the link. If you need support or would like to help others, go to this link. Cancer now affects 1 in 2 people. If you think my story will help someone you know going through a tough time, please share this video. Thank you for watching.